first ever Air Force drill being conducted between China and Egypt. Now, you might think to yourself, yeah, okay, so they're having a drill. Mm, Egypt and China having a drill. No, 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 no. It's not that simple. It's not that basic. Egypt and China having a drill is something very significant. China is the first enemy of the United States who supports Egypt every day. China is the biggest threat to the United States, in the words of the United States, by the way. Not as if they are really intending to do anything. It's actually the United States who is hostile constantly with China and the rest of the world. But this is how the United States considers them. Isn't Trump conducting now a failed tariff war against them and getting a massive beating and repercussion, with China preventing the supply of precious metals, not only to the United States, but to other countries too, are necessary for so many advanced parts to do with technology, arms, everything important nowadays. Why is Egypt having a drill with China? Well, the ties between Egypt and China have been increasing for a very long time. Egypt has been trying to diversify its relations with other countries, not wanting to have a single approach in relation to their army. And they went to Russia, they went to European countries, they went to China. When they tried to do certain things with Russia, they faced obstacles from the United States, because the United States had sanctions against Russia. So at one point, Egypt tried to obtain the F-35, the Su-35. And the United States told them, if you want to purchase the Su-35, that means you will be facing sanctions from us, because you will be dealing with a country that has sanctions. Why are they even trying to go to China and Russia and other countries? Well, it's because the United States, and despite Egypt having a very large number of F-16 fighter jets, the United States will only give Israel the edge when it comes to their F-16s, and in particular, in relation to the air-to-air capabilities of those fighter jets, which always gave Israel an advantage. And Israel always lobbies the United States not to give Egypt the latest tech relating to the F-16s. Egypt had to counter that. They wanted to have a strategic difference, strategic superiority, or even coming to the level of being capable to attack Israel in case, or respond to an Israeli attack on them, because Israel who attacks everyone. But if they would have an air battle, that would be difficult. You wouldn't be able to take down Israeli fighter jets or target them. That's why they try to go to Russia to obtain the Su-35 and have that air-to-air capability that would challenge the Israeli fighter jets. But they could not go to Russia. They could not go to Russia, and they had to eventually resort to China. They went to China, and there were already reports previously that they received the J-10s. We spoke about this a couple of months ago, and this was reported in a couple of news outlets. Again, not getting the level coverage that is required, because it was very significant at the time. I spoke about it at the time. But they got the Chinese J-10CE jets. They arrived in Egypt. That was back in February, 2 months ago, making a shift in the superiority strategy. That was very significant, although this wasn't one of the latest Chinese fighter jets. But that was significant because those Chinese fighter jets, they had the air-to-air capability. Therefore, Egypt, if they were at war with Israel, they can attack Israeli fighter jets from the air from a range of approximately 300 kilometers. So they don't even have to be close, and they can target Israeli fighter jets. And this is technology coming from China, so it's not friendly whatsoever with the F-16s. And as a matter of fact, it could be having multiple surprises to the F-16s. Now, what's happening with this drill, though? Why are not many people talking about it? and what does it entail exactly. And there are multiple reports. I tried to gather as much information as possible. Now, China, of course, they try and keep these drills censored as possible. But some information was out, and the report said that Chinese Y-20 transport planes arrive in Egypt ahead of joint air drills. You're talking about some of their biggest transport planes, military transport planes coming to Egypt with unspecified numbers, and it was massive. It wasn't something small like one or two planes and something symbolic. No, 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 no. This is something very serious, and they're calling it the Eagle of Civilization 2025. These transport airplanes, they can have a lot of stuff inside them. And the fleets, by the way, and these reports are coming from like Flight Radar 24 and people monitoring things and individually trying to get some information because, again, the countries are ignoring it. The United States and Israel are like monitoring the situation very carefully, trying to see what's exactly happening and not wanting to cause more problems and steer more problems. And again, China is usually very secretive when it comes to the drills that it conducts with other countries too. They've had joint drills between them and Iran and Russia near the Indian Ocean last year. They had more plans to do more drills, and now they're having this direct drill with Egypt. What does that mean? Well, by the number and levels of uh, transport planes coming, you're talking about something significant. It's not something light. We're not just talking about some sort of a show here or like a friendly. No, no, no. This is something very significant. A lot of arms are coming in from China, the most hostile country to the United States, or excuse me, the country that the United States considered to be the biggest threat, because China, to be fair, they don't have a hostile approach. Towards the whole world, the United States hostile to them, but the United States considers them to be the biggest threat. Egypt knows that very well, but because the United States did not allow Egypt to have the latest tech in relation to their F-16s, to have Israel more superior, and to give Israel a strategic advantage, Egypt told them we have to diversify. And then we're going to China. If you don't want Russia, we're going to go to China. They went to China. They go what they wanted from China. But this drill is also symbolizing something very important, that Egypt, not only that they have the J-10CE, they are now ready to completely operate them. This is what's going to happen. The Chinese, of course, they would receive training before, but now this means that they will have proper training on the J-10CEs, and that's going to be a very big shift in the strategy in the region. This is like a mini earthquake in the equation here, because don't underestimate the level of pressure that Israel applied on the United States for decades, not to even give Egypt an inch of edge. The United States never gave Egypt anything to the level of Israel. Even it always has to be a level below. Now, of course, they get the support, they get the aid, therefore they're going to buy it from the United States. I mean, of course, the money stays in the US. It goes from the taxpayers' pockets to Lockheed Martin, whichever country company manufacturing these fighter jets and weapons, and then they send them, of course, to Egypt. But as part of their strategy to keep Israel at a strategical advantage, they would not give Egypt the capabilities that they require. Now Egypt's telling them, well, thank you so much. I'm going to China. I'm going to Russia. I'm going to other countries too. And now they have it from China. And all that they have it, they are at operational level. And heavy censorship prevents us from knowing exactly the quantities and what actually is in those transport planes coming from China. Now, both the United States and Israel are viewing this and are very worried. They're extremely worried. And the fact that they haven't said a word says a lot. They're trying to be very careful. They're trying to be very cautious. They don't want to say a word that would upset China or Egypt, and they don't want to create something that would let Egypt or China put them in a very bad position. But what they're seeing is a very big change in the region. This is a massive change. You're talking about the biggest competitor in the international arena of the United States at the heart, with a country that is very important and very strategic in the region, not only flexing muscles, but having drills with them, training them how to operate the Chinese fighter jets, making sure that they have an edge and even be at a level of superiority to Israel when it comes to air to air missiles, air to air technology. And in case anything breaks out between Israel and Egypt, Egypt would be at a very, very strong position to target the Israeli fighter jets.